on GoSuffolkRams.com. From Boston, Massachusetts, welcome to Suffolk Sounds, the official show for Suffolk University Athletics. Hello and welcome to the Suffolk Sounds podcast. My name is Cam Brennan. You can follow me on Twitter at Cam_Brennan1. That's CAM_BRENNAN and the number 1. That's you can find me and interact with me on social media. As for today's show, we have Commonwealth Coast Conference Commissioner Gregg Kaye. I sit down with Kaye for an exclusive one-on-one interview, and that's what you can expect on today's episode. We'll give you fan access that you never thought you'd be able to get to before. We'll have conversations with people that matter to you, and we'll get perspectives of those that have close ties to the Suffolk Athletic Department. You get that all here on the Suffolk Sounds podcast. Now, with that being said, let me get back to Kaye. Kaye enters his 14th season of service with the Commonwealth Coast Conference. He has been overseeing the conference in that time and has overseen the expansion of men's golf, men's ice hockey, women's track and field, and women's ice hockey, in the addition of taking over the New England Football Conference and renaming it to the Commonwealth Coast Football Conference. Today we'll discuss how the CCC has grown, a little bit of their history, and what to look forward to as the CCC moves forward. This interview starts now. Gregg, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me on the Suffolk Sounds podcast.
Thank you so much. You do such a nice job. It's a treat to be here with you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you joining me. You're the first person outside of the Suffolk Athletic Department, so it's nice to get a different perspective. And we'll be talking about the CCC today and what the Rams can expect and what Rams fans can expect too as we move forward when we return to play.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the Rams can expect and a little bit about yourself and the background of the CCC, I want to just hear from you personally. When everything was shut down in March, everyone was sent home, and talking to some of the coaches, they picked up some new hobbies, some new interests. They sharpened their hobbies, sharpened their interests. But I want to hear from you. What was some of your quarantine activities or quarantine routine during that time?
Absolutely. I think a big one for me with all the uncertainty and all the issues we're dealing with, I really tried to spend a lot of time outside the last couple months, getting in a lot of walking, a lot of exercise. Personally, I relocated from Western Mass up to Southern Maine, so that was a little bit involved. So a good opportunity to do some exploring and some sightseeing, and it paid off. Last month the conference was involved in a 100-mile challenge for a young lady at one of the schools in the Atlantic East Conference who's battling breast cancer. So I was in good shape to go out and meet the challenge, but it really is about trying to find ways to decompress and kind of remember some of the things that you enjoy outside of the sporting realm. So that really is how I've kept busy.
I definitely agree with you there. I think I've spent a lot of time outside during that period where it was like everyone, you got to stay away from each other, but still having that freshness of air and change of scenery from outside the home as well.
Absolutely. It's always nice to get out and not have to worry about buzzers going off and phones ringing and emails. And even if it's, just for 30 or 45 minutes a day, it's a good break. It's a good way to recharge.
Absolutely. I think everyone was able to take away some part of that. Now, you're entering your 14th season with the CCC, and you've been with Conference Administration Athletics for a while. I want to just hear from you and maybe enlighten me and some of the fans and viewers at home that may not know the behind the scenes of a conference commissioner and all the details and all the objectives that obtains with that, because some fans and even some athletes will just show up and say, oh, we have a conference game today. But I imagine there's a lot behind the scenes of making schedules work and organizing sports and offering incentives as well.
Absolutely. I think the biggest misconception that a lot of people have when they hear the word commissioner is they automatically think of, Roger Goodell or Adam Silver, Rob Manfred, some of what they see on TV with the bigger Division One leagues, and our world is drastically different. The primary thing that we do is really focus on serving the membership. So a lot of times there may be ideas that we come up with that we need to get buy-in from our schools, either at the presidential level or at the athletic director level. So we spend a lot of time throwing a lot of ideas out there, discussing them, seeing what sticks. Similarly, when our ADs, when our presidents, when our coaching groups meet, there'll be a lot of ideas that come from within, and we'll spend our time trying to help them streamline some of those ideas. And if it's a case where one group is presenting something that needs the approval of a group further up the chain, we work with them on how to present those things. So it's really a rare instance where we can just wake up in the morning and say, hey, here's something we want to do, and it magically happens. It's usually the culmination of a lot of conversation throughout the membership. As you can imagine, over the past 8-9 months, we've been focused a great deal on all things COVID. So what folks may not realize is, since everything began back in March, what folks may not realize is since all this started back in March, our athletic directors have been meeting a minimum of once per week. We've all become pros on Zoom. We spend a lot of time interacting over email and by group text. We've had some weeks where certain things have to be decided, and we may meet as many as 2 or 3 times a week trying to navigate those areas. At the Division III level, both at the institution and also for a conference, the presidents really play a very instrumental part in leading the league and setting policy. So, for the better part of these 8 months, our presidents have been meeting monthly. In some cases, they may meet a little more frequently to really share ideas, share concerns, try to get a sense of what's happening elsewhere in New England, what else is happening in Division III, what's happening across the NCAA. So that really has been kind of a new world for us. Typically, our athletic directors will meet in a non-COVID year once a semester, as well as a third meeting at the NCAA convention in January. Our presidents will generally meet a couple of times a year where we talk about goals, achievements, things of that nature. So in normal times, leading those groups really takes a good amount of energy and effort, putting together agendas and other research that they may need. Our coaching groups, we have 19 sports in the conference, and typically groups are going to have a meeting before the year starts to talk about any new changes that might be in place. Maybe they hear from officiating assigners on points of emphasis, things of that nature. They talk about a lot of ongoing things that impact them, whether it's film exchange, scheduling, awards, things of that nature. Those groups will also meet at the end of each season to maybe put forward some recommendations for the next year. So it's a lot of really ensuring that communication is going on in each little area of the conference, but also moving up and down the chain as need be. We're really fortunate in New England, where there are 8 Division III conferences, that our commissioners group really works very closely together. Even in non-COVID times, we're always trying to collaborate on certain things. As an example, one of the events that got canceled over the summer was an NCAA compliance regional rules seminar, where folks can learn a little bit more about Division III legislation, go through some case studies, rather than each conference trying to tackle that individually, or have a situation where maybe they can only send 1 or 2 people to a remote location. Our commissioners groups work together to have regional programming like that, so that maybe 400 to 500 people can get that same messaging and learn from the questions that each of us asks. So I'm sure I'm probably forgetting a lot of things, but really governance, meetings, schedules, planning for championships, coordinating our awards program. Those are really the things that in a normal time we will focus on in the conference office.
And I think that expansive list kind of encompasses, it's not just you show up for maybe a couple games on a Saturday and show up with the trophy on championship day. There's a lot more behind the scenes work that has to be done. And I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes it's kind of staggering, and you shake your head when those things are going on. But I can tell you that even though we've gotten to do some of those things over the past 8 months, you really start missing them. I'd love nothing more than to be out this weekend handing a championship trophy to a deserving group of student athletes. So we stay busy. It's not the same, but we know that at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, things are going to get back to that normal routine.
And I look forward when we do get back to that routine. Now, taking away from your role in the conference, can you just give me a brief history of the conference as the Rams are joining the CCC? This is the first year where we're associated with the Commonwealth Coast Conference. And just give us a little maybe background, whether it be maybe some of the founding members, when was it started, or some of the starting sports that the conference offered, and even a logo change. I know yourself, you're wearing the new updated logo that just came in a few years ago.
Absolutely happy to touch on the history. The league was founded back in 1984, as so many conferences, primarily as a men's basketball conference. We do have some of the charter members are still competing in the CCC. Curry College, Salve Regina, which at the time was a college, now a university, and also Wentworth were three of the six founding members, along with Anna Maria, Emerson, and Hellenic College. As I said, we started in 84, 85 as a men's basketball conference. Early on, schools enjoyed their experience competing in men's basketball. And at that point, women's sports probably about 3 years prior had started playing for championships at the NCAA level. So very, very quickly in the second year, the league added women's basketball. And over time, some of the more popular team sports came into the mix as far as baseball, men's and women's soccer, softball. Those came in very early on. Eventually, some of the individual sports such as tennis and golf came on board. So, at that stage, it was before the NCAA started guaranteeing conferences that meet certain criteria an automatic bid. So at that point, it really, was an entity that winning a conference championship was really the pinnacle of a team's season. Throughout the 80s, throughout the 90s, eventually the league wound up growing to 14 members, located in all of the New England states that we're currently in, as well as New Hampshire. And then things started changing, I would say, around 2007. Then I would say things started changing somewhere around 2007. At that point, many conferences were starting to hire full-time commissioners. In previous years, it had really been a case where different institutional athletic directors would start rotating duties, either responsible for the whole league or responsible for certain sports in the league. The NCAA started making a conference grant program available to Division III leagues. So there were a lot more things that needed to happen in conjunction with the national office. So during that wave, I had the opportunity to come on board after spending 6 years as an assistant / associate commissioner with a Division two league down in Florida. Originally from the Northeast, my wife and I had a real strong desire to get back to this part of the country, so the opportunity was there. At that point, the membership pretty much stayed at 14 until around 2010. At 2010, some members decided to pursue membership in other conferences, primarily to have a little bit better competitive experience. It's very important that conferences are comprised of like-minded institutions with similar resources. So we ended up at 10 schools, and we were there really for quite some time. Once we got to that point, I would say a big focus for the league was really how could we bring a lot of sports in-house, where previously our teams were going to leagues and conferences that maybe only sponsored one sport, or they were under another administrative umbrella. And as teams started exploring new opportunities to create programs, we eventually were able to earn an automatic bid in men's golf. We didn't have to rely on a whole lot of club programs as we did in the past. So that was one that was really the one that started the expansion process. We were able to bring men's ice hockey and football under the CCC umbrella around 2014, 15, 16 in that area. We were able to expand our offerings with women's track and field once the sponsorship levels reached a certain point. And then the one that I'm really excited about that, hopefully we'll be able to get underway this year is the addition of women's hockey, and, the addition of Suffolk, the creation of some new programs at Western New England this year and Curry the next has gotten us to the point where we're able to do that. So we've really over the years been able to offer more championship experiences, which is a great thing, because if the men's hockey programs are getting the CCC experiences, but the women's programs are going elsewhere, maybe it doesn't match up quite the same. So we've been able to do that. It's been a wonderful thing, and I don't know that there's going to be any other sports that come down the pipeline in the near future, but there are some others that we're talking about. So really, we've gone from a 7-team single sport conference into a full sport league with 10 institutions, many of which sponsor all of the sports that the league sponsors. And we're really in a great place. It's amazing how far so many things have come just in the 14 years that I've been part of it. But when you pick up athletic director meeting minutes from back in the 80s, and you see some of the things that they were talking about then, increasing the postage budget from $30 to $50. But now we're talking about adding championships and adding programs and things of that nature. It's really a great testament to the leadership that we've had at the presidential level and at the athletic director level that we've been able to do a lot of these things. So we're in a really good place right now that, probably, 30, 35 years ago, I don't know if anybody really ever envisioned how much the CCC would be involved in. We did a logo rebrand last year, which was the first one that we had done since 2007. And that was a really exciting process. It kind of brings everybody together and allows you to freshen some things up. So we're in a good place. We're going to get through all the challenges that we're facing now and find ways to make it even better in the coming years.
And that excitement is always going to be seen, especially from the past few years, where adding men's hockey earlier a few years ago, and then adding women's hockey as a sport too is something that is exciting for any member of the CCC to be exciting for. That all being said, can't really engage student athletes now with conference games and conference championship, but the conference has done a great job still engaging those student athletes and developing the student development series. We've had 4 installments already of that series. Can you touch a little bit on the idea of that series and how you're interacting with students now?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about the things that we've been doing. A lot of the programs that I'll touch on are ideas that I had, years back, things that, we talked about in passing, but really never had a way to implement those simply because it's very busy when all of the sports are in play. But when we learned that we weren't going to be able to compete in the fall, it was very, very important for the institutions on their own to continue doing a lot of the leadership activities and life skills activities that are so important. When folks look back on their college experience, certainly they remember the competitions, but they also remember the things that athletics has taught them in order to be better people, in order to be more efficient leaders. So as the schools started identifying ways that they would be able to keep student athletes engaged, it allowed our office to roll out some ideas that we've had. Back in the spring, one of the things we were able to do was, we started recognizing our seniors as a way of, giving them a final send-off because we didn't have all conference teams to acknowledge as a result of not having conference games. So that really was the start of it. Once we got into the fall and we saw some of the things that leaders, some of the leadership activities that were going on, I kind of dusted off some of the old notes and said, hey, here's some things that we've been able to talk about. So thus far, we had a 2-night series, back-to-back nights. We had individuals who started out as student athletes at their institution, and they've since moved on to roles either in coaching or administration. So back-to-back nights, we had 2 panels. About 60 current student athletes took advantage of those. And we talked about their career paths. We asked them about advice that they've received, what they've done as far as networking or approaches to, get their foot in the door in athletics. And let's face it, a lot of the young adults that are competing in the league right now, some as early as next year are going to, take over coaching responsibilities, whether it's at the the assistant level or as a head coach. And while student athletes get great counseling from their coaches, from their athletic departments, from various services on campus, it never hurts to build that network. And as a perfect example, the first night that we did the panel, and that was one that Anthony Del Prete was a part of as Suffolk's representative. We had a young lady in the audience who had reached out via the chat box with a question towards a strength and conditioning coach from another CCC institution. They were able to make contact and have some one-on-one conversation. And that's something that might not have happened had it not been for, the chance to learn from others across the conference. Another person who served on the panelist who played in the league going back to around 2006 to 2009. One of the bits of advice that she shared was that she wrote a letter to every coach that her teams had competed against during her 4 years. And it was very easy for her to, eventually find that first opportunity. So that really was a great, great program that I'm really proud that we were able to start doing. We had a second program, a young lady who is a recent softball alum from UNE. She now works in scouting for the Buffalo Bills. And we were able to go a little bit deeper into one person's career path. And it was, again, a great opportunity for people to hear a story, for people to get some really good advice. The third series that we did really had amazing turnout. We had a mental health speaker, a former Division II student athlete by the name of Ivy Watts, who put on a program that was sponsored by our conference, SAC, talking about mental health challenges that student athletes face in both normal times and in COVID times. And what was really impressive with that one is we had about 150 connections, people viewing that program and interacting live. But within those connections, a lot of groups of 2, 3, 4, 5 student athletes that assembled together. So we had a really nice crowd for that. The most recent one that we just had, our fourth in a series, was something that we did to highlight women in sports. And again, we reached out to our alums that are all doing different things in Division III athletics, Division I athletics, professional athletics, giving some of their perspectives and talking about things that they've encountered as females, but also they shared some strategies that men can apply to their daily routines and their career path. So it really was a great thing. We're going to go on hiatus a little bit with the live programming until after the holidays, but we'll have one coming up in January. We're going to have former CCC alums who now work in the media, mostly the TV side. But I think that's going to be another interesting one where we can talk about not just a career path, but we could talk about an area that really is under a lot of scrutiny in many different ways. So we've done some really good things. Really, for me, I'm hoping that even when our activities get back to normal, that we're going to continue to do those things and be even more of a resource for not just student athletes who are competing for conference championships, but sport management students and other undergrads at our member institutions who may not be in a position to play intercollegiate athletics, but certainly want to consider what we do as a career path that they may wish to pursue. So hopefully we didn't just dust off some ideas to fill the time, but we've laid the groundwork for what I think are going to be some good programs for years to come.
And I'm excited when those programs do get going, and you alluded to the one in January. We may touch on that as soon as we exit the interview too. But another initiative that the CCC brought through was the Person of the Week spotlight. Now, typically conferences will have players of the week, athletes of the week, whether it be offensive player, defensive player, goalie of the week, for example. But with many sports in the fall on hold, the CCC decided to bring forward Person of the Week, and I've really enjoyed seeing all of those student athletes have that different side. And Suffolk's own women hockey player, Stephanie Moy, was featured as part of one Person of the Week. Can you just describe the maybe idea behind the initiative and what you've liked seeing so far?
Absolutely. You know, over the years, we've tried different programs where we've, tried to do some feature stories on student athletes. And it would usually be a case where, we would tell a school, okay, this is your week, who do you want to focus on to tell their story? We would put up a piece and then we would kind of move on. So that's another one that we really tried to, dust off, but we really wanted to focus on people that are committed to making their communities better. And, you touched on Stephanie Moy, and I thought that was just an amazing piece, a young lady who is in college going, playing hockey 3,000 miles away from home. So there, you start thinking, there's people like that all over that really have stories as far as how did you get from where you grew up to where you are now. And the subject material I thought was outstanding. The graphic that we were able to use showed her in her kitchen, making some donuts that she was able to sell to raise money for social awareness. And that's one of my favorite programs that or one of the favorite photos that I've seen on our website forever. Nobody wants to see the middle-aged guy handing out a trophy, but if you could see a young, energetic student athlete in the kitchen, I mean, that's tremendous. So we focused on young folks that have done, things like leading a Black Lives Matter event on their campus. We had a men's player who was running a 3-on-3 hockey league down in South Florida to give other student athletes a chance to stay competitive. We've had a lot of interesting stories that we've been able to tell, and in many cases, these may be student athletes that aren't going to get the recognition as a player of the week or an all-conference player. So we're very close to making the first loop through the conference. I think this coming week will be number 10. And then we hope to keep it going. We may at some point be able to explore stories of some of our administrators or coaches. But first and foremost, it's really about, sharing the student athletes. And if you're able to put a 3 or 4 minute video out there and somebody says, wow, I didn't realize that you could do all those things in college. I could be like that. That's something that I'd love to be able to do. There may be people that say, you know what, I like to play at the Division I level, but I don't want to devote 70, 80 hours a week to my sport. I want to be able to pursue other interests that are going to help me later in life. Maybe they see somebody who is profiled that they can say, you know what, that's me. I really identify with that person. So really a great way of getting the message out there about the quality individuals that are in the league, and hopefully an invitation to others who want to be that person in a couple of years and follow in their footsteps. So I've enjoyed them immensely. We've had the entire series. All of the interviews have been done by student interns that have come to us from within the conference. We usually try to get about a week or two ahead of them, so that they can get some raw footage, and then we assemble as a group. And seeing how those folks have really improved as storytellers and journalists has been amazing. And shout out to anybody who might be interested in working with us as an intern in that area, or others, being a resource, as I talked about, to folks in all programs at our institutions. That's what we're here to do. So I'd welcome anybody who has a great story idea that we might want to profile, or if they'd like to get involved with us in perhaps putting stories like that together, or implementing some of these other programs, and just kind of getting our feet wet. One thing we've learned over the last 8-9 months is that, we could do all the things that we would like to do, regardless of where we might be. We don't all have to be sitting in the same room on the same campus. And that opens up doors for people that, might be at any of our institutions, whether it's, a perfectly centralized institution like Suffolk, or somebody in one of the more outlying areas. So if there are people that are, thinking about this for a career and they'd like to get some experience, by all means, reach out to our office, and we'd love to have that conversation.
And I absolutely look forward to those opportunities for those students, because it's a great opportunity for students to get experience within athletic conference work, and also seeing the Person of the Week initiative continue through at least the end of the year. And I'm excited to see what other students get profiled as well. Kind of as my last wrap-up question, with what are you looking forward to when either we get back to play some of the more initiatives that you talked about, You alluded to the CCC alumni panel focusing on students that have entered the media and television field. What are some of the maybe events or ideas that you're looking forward to for the CCC? And it can include expanding and the conference itself, talking about new sports and these different ideas. What are you looking forward to overall with the potential of the conference?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly the return to play is really the big first hurdle that we all want to get to. Last year, as an example, one of the programs that we started doing, and it's a good thing we did it in the fall last year, was we started conducting a CCC day on every one of our campuses, and it was really tied to the new branding initiative. But we set up a day where we spent a day on each campus. We would spend time maybe at an athletic department staff meeting. We'd go to lunch with coaches, try to build some of those relationships and listen to them as far as ideas that they might have. The fun part of it was that we would set up a big CCC tent at one of our athletic events, and we would hand out items that had our new logo. We gave people an opportunity to check out our trophies and our medals. Gave out in limited quantities some new branded apparel and things of that nature. This year, we were really hoping to do that and maybe take advantage of being able to do that in the spring. So hopefully, if we reach a point where we're able to, not just get back to play, but have events that resemble what they've always resembled on campus, that would be something that we would really like to continue. With Suffolk being the newest member of the league, regardless of what we're able to do conference-wide, I feel like we owe it to the Rams community to get out and meet some folks, get to meet a lot of the student athletes and interact with people. So that's something that, as soon as we're able to get back out in kind of a normal routine, that's one of the things that we want to do. We started talking, last year in great detail about launching a CCC digital network, trying to, have one umbrella where the great programming that's being done at our institutions might be able to come under the conference umbrella. That's something that many leagues have been able to do. That was something that we had to put on hold. But I think what we've also seen is that as we do more and more programming, there's a way that platform can be used for things on demand apart from games. I would love to see us be able to, show old events where maybe we have participating coaches and student athletes giving some sort of commentary. Other things that we've talked about that we've had to put on the back burner a little bit. The exploration of esports as that's really taking root on many conference campuses. There may be a way to harness the power of the numbers that we have to do something. We have other sports that right now are nowhere near where they need to be in terms of sponsorship numbers, but they may get there at some point. And I'll point to certain sports like men's volleyball, or, Suffolk has a great women's golf program. That's something that's been talked about. Many of our schools are involved with men's and women's rugby at the club level. And I've always thought that it would be great that if individual schools are looking at enhancing programs like that and maybe turning into varsity programs, there might be a way that all of our institutions can focus on those things and maybe make the jump at the same time. And it would be great to be the first Division III conference, for example, to present a conference championship in a sport like women's rugby. So those are the things that hopefully we're going to continue talking about. We've been able to use this time as a great way to revamp our student athlete advisory committee and give them, an increased say in the programming and the activity that they would like to be involved in as student athletes. So those conversations are going to continue. It's the sky's the limit as far as what we can do, and we have some wonderful people in the league, in our president's group, among our athletic directors, our senior women administrators, our coaches, our student athletes. So being able to have those conversations and try to find out what's realistic and see what we can set as goals for the future. So those are some things that I think we're looking forward to. Certainly having Suffolk come on board and, start competing in the conference level, programs that have enjoyed tremendous regional success, such as the baseball program. That's going to make a real strong CCC sport even better. Programs such as men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer that have been on the upswing. Softball. It's Suffolk's a wonderful addition to the league in so many different ways, but we'll really be excited to have the Rams out there competing against not just the local teams in the CCC, but all of the teams in the CCC, and making us a bigger force to be reckoned with regionally when we start getting into, at-large play and NCAA tournaments. Having a strong program across the board like Suffolk become part of us, it's going to make it better for everybody. So that's the thing that I'm really most excited about, finally seeing it happen.
And a lot to look forward to for the CCC, whether it be returning to play and even Suffolk CCC Day. I'm sure you'll be welcome to the Ridgeway building with open arms when that day does come.
Looking forward to it. It can't come soon enough.
Greg, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Cam, thanks so much. Look forward to talking with you again, and hopefully as things return to normal, getting out there and meeting all the folks at Suffolk that we haven't had the pleasure and privilege of meeting just yet.
Absolutely. Take care. Ram Nation, if you like what you heard today on the Suffolk Sounds podcast, be sure to visit our website, GoSuffolkRams.com. That's GoSuffolkrams.com, where you can get an exclusive, in-depth look at Suffolk Athletics. While you're at it, be sure to follow the Rams social channels, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the same name for an insider's look. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate us, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to the Suffolk Athletics official show. Send in your questions. Who'd you like to hear from? Whether it be a player or a coach. Be sure to bring something new to every single show. In fact, be sure to tune into the next episode when we talk to Suffolk Director of Athletics, Carrie McConnell. Until then, I'm Cam Brennan. Talk to you soon, Ram Nation. This has been Suffolk Sounds. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, and review however you listen to your podcast.